Hello class, my name is Roberto Urquia and today I'll be talking about this section of the chapter 7.4 Listening Responses. Okay, so we will discuss about different types of listening responses. We will also discern different types of questioning and we will also analyze perception checking. There are 8 types of listening responses. We have silent listening, questioning, paraphrasing, empathizing, supporting, analyzing, evaluating, and advising. We will start with silent listening. This occurs when we say nothing, when we just sit down and let the speaker talk. It's ideal in certain situations. And this type of listening can be powerful if it's used correctly. But it has a disadvantage that it is commonly misunderstood. For example, the speaker might think that we are not listening to him because he's not getting any feedback from us. But it's good for counseling because the speaker can talk about their feelings and just talk and talk, so they can express themselves. So now we have the listening response questioning. Here we want to make questions to clarify meanings. For example, if you have like a thick accent like me, sometimes people don't get all the words that I say, and I gotta repeat what I say so they can know what I think or what I'm trying to say. We also have questions to learn about others' thoughts, feelings, and wants. Here we want to indicate more on how the speaker is feeling about the situation, and we also have to encourage elaboration. We want to be more specific on what the speaker is trying to say. We also have to encourage discovery. Here's when we want to know something or we have curiosity about the topic. To gather facts and details. Here we make questions to see, to corroborate if the information makes sense. There are 2 types of questions here. We have sincere questions that are created to define a genuine answer that we want to sincerely know something, and we have counterfeit questions that are hidden attempts to send a message and not to receive one. For example, if I ask you, do you have $5? I might be trying to borrow those $5 from you. Now we have paraphrasing. In paraphrasing, we change the speaker wording to indicate what we think they meant. We put the information in your own words. We can also offer an example of what we think the speaker is talking about. And when we paraphrase, we represent mindful listening because it requires an intelligent process, like a thinking process. We also can summarize facts and gain consensus in essential discussions. For example, a business meeting. When you go to a business meeting, you want to make sure that everybody is on the same page and receive the same indications, so no mistakes are made later. Empathizing. Here we show that we identify with the speaker information. We are not emphasizing, for example, when you deny others' rights to their feelings. I would not recommend to say any expressions of this. For example, it's really not a big deal, or who cares. Those are good attempts to minimize others' feelings. By minimizing the significance of the situation, we are interpreting in our own perspective and we are passing to judgment. Now we have supporting. In a discussion, people sometimes want to know how we feel about them instead of a reflection of the content. The value of receiving support is very important for the speaker. Some support responses are agreement, like you're right, or offers to help, like do you need something? We can also say to praise someone, we can say you have a kind heart, or to make a reassurance, we can say something like you got this, and diversion is another way to support the speaker. Now we go to analyzing. Here we gain different alternatives and perspectives by interpreting. For example, the speaker, but we gotta be careful because the speaker might not understand our interpretation of, of the information. We gotta be smart and offer instead of impose. This means that we better tentatively offer our interpretation instead of imposing it like an established fact. This will be this will make it easier for the speaker to accept it. Now we go to evaluating. Okay, so here in evaluating, we appraise the speaker's thoughts and behaviors. Um, we, there are two types of evaluations. Favorable or positive evaluations, for example, saying, oh, that makes sense. And we have negative evaluations, passive judgment. And for negative evaluations, um, they can be critical or non-critical. And non-critical evaluations, for example, it will be a constructive criticism. Evaluation is better accepted upon request. So if the speaker asks for a evaluation, it will be better than just offering without asking. And another point to make a better evaluation, it is that it has to be genuinely constructive. Now we go to advising. Differs from evaluation, and we gotta be careful because it can be harmful. And we gotta make sure that the speaker is ready for it. And to make a good advising, we gotta be confident on the correctness of the advice that we are going to give to the speaker. Now we move to perception checking. Perception affects how we communicate. And perception can easily change over time. For example, you might see someone different if they act different. If if you used to think that your ex was a good person and they treat you bad, now the perspective of towards their change. And we have phases of perception. We have process, selection, organization, and negotiation. Okay, in selection, here is the first step in the perception process. Here we determine what we focus and what we ignore. And we have intensity, bigger, brighter, louder. Okay, so when we tend to pay attention to loud sounds, bright lights, and things that are bigger than normal. For example, if I scream right now, you will pay more attention to me because it's a loud sound. Or if you're on traffic and you see a monster truck, you will look at it because it's out of normal. Intensity is used in advertising and marketing, so they can catch the attention of new customers. Now we have repetition. People pay attention to things that repeat because you can remember them, because you can memorize it easier. Differences. We tend to pay attention to what is different, especially if it's something completely different to what commonly occurs. For example, and when something is different, when it's new, we tend to compare it to other things. For example, if you're moving to a new town, you will compare your past lifestyle on your past town to your new lifestyle where you live now. There are also motives involved. We tend to pay more attention to what we have a strong interest or desire. For example, if you have a dream car, you will notice it if you see it down the street. But but people who doesn't share your motives, your interest in this car, they will just ignore it and probably they won't see it at all. Emotions. Okay, so here the emotional state can impact on how we view life. For example, when we are happy, we tend to recognize other happy faces. And when we are sad, we tend to recognize other sadness. Organization. This is the second phase in the perception process. After selecting the information, uh, we put it all together in order so we can know what is going on. And then but here we can engage to a stereotyping. We engage in stereotyping when we attribute certain characteristics to a certain set of individuals. For example, a stereotype example would be Asian students are great at math. This is a stereotype. Interpretation. This is the third phase of the perception process. And here we understand information or make sense of it. We try to comprehend what it's the information received. Degree of involvement. The more involved we are are with something, the more we can make sense of what is actually happening. Relational satisfaction. When a situation is satisfactory for us, we see it all good, all correct, we don't have any issues. But when we feel unsatisfied with something, we tend to see the negative parts, or we tend to think more in a negative way about that situation. Now we have past experiences. We tend to interpret information based on our past experiences. For example, imagine a soccer team wins the same tournament 3 years consecutively. You might think that this is a great soccer team and that they will probably win next year. That is based on past experiences. Assumptions about human beings, or assumptions about others help us to understand their behaviors and actions. Expectations. Our behaviors are very influenced by expectations. For example, if you hear the new movie coming out is pretty good, you will have high expectations at the moment to watch it, and you will judge it in a higher level than if you don't have high expectations of it. Knowledge of others. The more we know someone, the better perspective we'll have about them. For example, if you know your best friend is getting married next week, you won't be surprised if you see a post about it on his social media. Now we have negotiation. This is the last phase of the perception process. This is very interesting because, as you know, your mindset or your perspective might be different from my perspective. So that's why perspectives differ from one to another. There is always two sides of a story. So, for example, when there is a crash, a car accident on the highway, police have to listen to both sides of the story so they can have a better idea of what actually happened. Influences of perception. Here we have psychological influences, physiological influences, social influences, and cultural influences. In physiological influences, we have senses like sight, smell, hearing. Our senses have an impact on on what and where we focus our attention. And we have age also. Our age influences on how we think about things. We don't think the same way as we used to do at 10 years old or than when we are 30 years old. Our mindset and our perspective change over time. Health. When we are healthy, we have more energy, more stamina. We feel more capable to do things, and that also makes us more receptive to new information. When we are sick, we can feel weaker, tired, and this can limit ourselves at the moment to perceive new information. Now we have hunger. This is a basic physical need. When we're hungry, the only thing we can think about is food. So that will limit our ability or perception of information. Now we have biological cycles. We all have different lifestyles, different schedules, and different peak times when we work the best. Some people are more active at mornings, some people are more active at nights, and we also perceive more information on our most active time of the day. Now we have psychological influences. Some influences in perception are not physiological but psychological. Uh, these influences are based on our mind and we can detect them in others. Now we have two factors on psychological influences. We have mood and self-concept. How we feel has an impact on how we interpret things. And we also have self-concept. How we see ourselves can influence how we perceive information too. People who have healthy self-esteem or self-concept about them will be less likely to get offended when they receive critics or negative remarks. But people who have low self-esteem of themselves might be very harmed when they get negative comments about them. Now we have social influences. Okay, and here in this part we have sex and gender roles. Okay, there are some expectations on how men and women should behave in public. We also have in society some pre-designed roles on how we should behave, or what we're expected to do. For example, men can be topless at the beach, but women cannot, or is not commonly accepted. Occupational role. Okay, so our jobs have an influence on how we perceive the world. For example, someone that is part of the military might see security as the top priority in the country, and someone who works for the medical industry might see health as the top priority for of the country in their perspective. Now we have cultural influences. Behaviors are influenced by culture. Uh, People who share the same culture tend to behave according to their traditions. And cultural experiences are diverse. They change from one country to another. And we got to be respectful and mindful about it. An example of cultural influence is humor, because American humor might differ from European humor or from Asian humor or from African humor. It depends on where you live or what will be fun to you. Okay, that will be all for my section of the chapter. If you have any questions, let me know here in the comments. And thank you for watching.